So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Dark Knight, so let's start the series. The radio on the dashboard of the car's speakers kept blasting music throughout the car as it sped down the highway, following the same route as many other cars to reach their destination. The driver's eyes were fixed on the road, her golden eyes blinking only infrequently, but her face was set in a monotone, making it difficult to tell what she was thinking. The only sign that she was listening to the loud music while driving was the slightest movement of the pair of furred ears on top of her head. However, the young woman sitting next to her in the passenger seat was completely different. She was much more animated and gregarious than the reserved driver, and she bobbed her head to the music, her wings and halo above her head glowing as though they represented the girl's upbeat disposition. In her lap was a plastic pan with crumbs and sticky syrup on it, almost empty except for one slice, and a doughy, syrupy, fruity treat. Let your body move and dance once more. As bright as a star above you, let your body move and dance once more. Take a look around, everything is okay. Before shoving the forkful of the treat into her mouth and letting out a joyful squeal as she ate and sloppy swallowed the delicacy in her mouth, the woman kept bobbing her head to the beat of the music, her ruby hair changing from its position to frame her face. Apple pie. The happy, upbeat red-headed girl's expression as she savored her treat was a sign that nothing could bring her down, as was the unique thought of the treat that formed in her thoughts and the rhythmic cadence of the lively, enthusiastic beat of the music pumping in the car. She looked at the person driving their car to their destination as she shoved the remains of the apple pie into her mouth, crumbs still on her lips. She ate the food before asking the person driving the car, "Hey, Texas? Texas, Texas, Texas," she said, waving the fork in front of her face when her buddy didn't answer. "What, exugii?" Texas asked, slapping the hand away as she looked at her red head with a look of irritation on her face. The red-headed girl asked, "Where are we going?" with a little obnoxious expression, although she seemed largely indifferent to it. "Where we going, Texas?" Exugii said, but received no answer. She let out a sigh and looked over her shoulder before turning the wheel and leaving the freeway for a less congested route on the left. "It's on the request list, did you not remember?" she said. Exugii looked up at the road in apparent contemplation, observing the fast-moving vehicles and people heading to their respective places. After a time, she shrugged, her smile remaining fixed on her face, saying, "Nope. I forgot." A lesser person would have scowled or gawked at the girl in disbelief at the sheer boldness of what she said. To them, it would have appeared that the red-haired girl had a terrible short-term memory of where they were going and why, but to Texas, the Lupo was accustomed to it, having met her after years of working with her at Penguin Logistics. Despite this, the girl continued to irritate her with her attitude regarding certain aspects, especially since they had both received the order form and were currently driving to deliver the goods. "We're delivering to a factory that processes manganese ores into certain devices from the outer city of Lungmen, a subsidiary of Rhodes Island." She shook her head. "Try to remember that, exugii," she said, adding that she wouldn't have cared if she had taken the time to retain that information as long as possible, but only if she was the one driving. When they were leaving to take Akiton to an owner's workshop, Texas resisted the urge to recall. Exugii offered to drive there, claiming that even though she was more than capable of doing so, she didn't need a GPS because she had already thoroughly memorized the entire city of Lungmen and every location in that area. Exugii was the sharp contrast. They drove past the highway exit that would take them to the family's house, and it wasn't until they reached a bakery from the exit ahead that she realized how off course they were. At the time, she thought she understood the girl's perspective on life, but it was evident how little she knew when she drove off course from their destination to deliver, and how much it affected her work ethic. They drove back, but it was already an hour late because they had to take a different highway route and pass through several neighborhoods before they arrived at their destination. They had to apologize to the owner, or rather, she did, because the girl lied and fed shit about having gotten into a fight with his company's manufacturers over the phone over the delivery's distance. She even gave her a glare to stop her from talking even as she explained the situation. Penguin Logistics took pride in its quick, safe, and efficient delivery of goods and materials on time. If they delivered goods much later than planned or if the goods themselves were damaged due to a review or complaint, it would reflect poorly on the company. Fortunately, the owner did not appear to be upset and understood the situation she was forced into, and he did not refuse to pay or ask to speak with their company to file a complaint. The most significant lesson from the experience was that Texas should never have allowed Exugii to drive. When asked why, Exugii whined and complained about the newly opened bakery and their freshly made apple pie. At times, she was like a whiny child, and Texas was so shocked by Exugii's decision that she was rendered speechless. With her hair moving in different directions, the redhead nodded joyfully and said, "Okay. Thank you, Texas. What I could not do without you. Nothing at all." Before joining, she occasionally questioned how Exugii's work ethic at Penguin Logistics led to her pay. That's not to imply Exugii didn't work or only cared about what she wanted. She was able to do her job, and Texas could see that she could carry or deliver packages and other items anytime they returned to one of Penguin Logistics' warehouses. Even though Texas got used to her, she was often a pain to work with since she was half focused and the other half utterly indolent. As the multi-layered buildings passed, their vivid, energetic colors fading to a blur as the two drove down a two-way intersection and then right onto a narrow path, she kept driving them to their destination. They drove straight down until Texas's eyes briefly glinted at the building before she said, "We're here," Exugii cried. "Ah, finally. That was such a long ride. Got to get out and stretch." The girl pushed out her passenger side door and unbuckled herself from the seat before raising her arms and extending her ostensibly tired muscles to accentuate the point. "Help me get some of the shipment of ores out," Texas said, shifting the gear back to neutral and leaving the driver's seat. She had just unlocked the back-end door when she felt the phone vibrate in her jacket pocket. She reached in to take it out, looked at the number on the screen, and then responded, Texas speaking. "Hello, Texas, you and Exugii are here, now. I'm assuming that's both of you, given that I can hear your van." "Yes, we're here, and the manganese ores Dr. Kalstit requested to be processed. Just unloading them." "Okay, I'll be down in a sec." Texas turned off her phone and reached into her jacket pocket to get a package of Pocky. She took one of the breaded sticks and put the end of it in her mouth, covered in chocolate. Although Pocky was typically thought of as a kid's snack, Texas thought it was a really good snack and a way to stop smoking. The treat helped her relax when she was under a lot of stress. When Exugii saw it, the redhead quickly raised her arms and exclaimed, "Ooh! Ooh! Texas, can I have one?" "Please, Texas," with her cheerful demeanor. Texas held out the Pocky for a few more seconds before she felt annoyance start to set in at her partner's abrupt attitude change. "What's her problem?" she asked, sighing, nodding, and offering one to the redhead. Sancta's face then turned into an angry pout, with her nose and face turning up. She said she wanted one, didn't she? Unless. Texas, feed me a Pocky. Pretty please. Oh, oh. Me too, Texas. Don't forget me. The memories of Croissant and Sora started to flood her mind, and she hardly managed to resist the temptation to facepalm. No, no, no. I don't just want you to give it to me. I want you to feed it to me, she said, scrunching her face deeper, crossing her arms, and shaking her head as though the girl had read her mind. For that instant, Texas's eye twitched and she felt her frustration building. This again, did it really matter if she took the Pocky or not? In any case, she was simply going to eat it. No, just take it and eat it, but Texas. No, take it and eat the damn thing. I'm not doing something as stupid and idiotic as that. In a display of rage and pain, the redhead's face flinched once more, and she whipped her head away. In recognition of this, Texas pushed the Pocky stick back into its container, rolled her eyes, and turned her back on the girl. If Exugiai decided to act foolish, she would barely be concerned for the girl's sentiments. She chose to check her phone again, just browsing the current events. The news about Lungmen was nothing new. There had been discussions about a new laptop development made by a company in Lungmen, and the Lungmen Guard Department had issued a report about a dangerous criminal in the seedier parts of the country, advising residents to stay indoors and report the suspect to avoid confronting him and to call the number right away. She assumed she could browse the web, but as she was making her decision, she heard a voice that sounded like sniffling. Was she crying, Exugiai? Exugiai's eyes met hers and she pouted again, turning away like a child at their mother when they are denied candy or toys, a similar vein that indicated they are not talking or acknowledging them at all. A quick look at her face revealed that she was indeed upset and bothered by her refusal to comply with her request. She was also trying to hide her sniffles as her face contorted almost like a baby. What a fool, an immature, childish fool, Texas turned back to her phone. Without the request, Exugiai could have accepted the offer. If anything, it was her fault for asking for something she knew she would turn down. That was the first, only, and last time she would ever accept a request by feeding someone. She had no idea why they wanted it. Please. Texas. Just want to be fed. Although the Sancta's gentle sobbing and pleading was hardly audible, Texas was able to detect the sound that most people would not. Pocky. She disregarded her. Need to be fed. It seemed as though Exugiai was determined to bother her and aggravate her until she obtained what she desired, yet the voice went unheard and continued. Texas was able to keep out annoyances for a while, but even she had a limit. She realized that she couldn't keep them out forever, and they would keep going until she gave in. Whether she gave in or they did, they persisted until the very end. All right, unless she gave in to their demands, Exugiai and others would keep bugging her till they eventually left her alone. Texas interrupted Exugiai mid-pleading chant, saying, "Fine, hurry up." When Texas spoke again, the girl blinked in surprise and said, "Hurry up, I don't have all day," in an irritated tone. Yes. I knew you cared about me, Texas. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. I love you so much. The girl waved joyfully, her eyes flickering with joy and flashing as bright as her wings and halo. The lupo rolled her eyes and said, "Whatever, hurry up and just eat it," but Exugiai didn't really care since she knew that Texas secretly cared about her and would comply with her request because that's what friends do. Support one another. She would never be hated in Texas. And neither would she. Their name was BSTS. Best friends. Best pals. From the corner of her eye, the skies glowed with the same shade of azure, only a little darker from the time that had passed since they started their journey to Demon's house. Okay. The girl delightedly knelt down, opening her mouth to bite down on the offered snack treat, her eyes gazing up at her fellow Penguin Logistics member with adoration and love. Hold on a second. She looked up into the sky. Did she see it shimmering indigo and gold, or was it just her? She had to squint because the colors and the light overhead flashed so strongly that it burnt her eyes. She was so enamored that Texas yelled, "Eat the damn Pocky, Exugiai," at her once again. This event in the skies above right now has replaced the wonder that was once again imprinted on Exugiai's face as she simply stared without reacting. Exugiai, eat the damn thing else I'm not doing your stupid request. Texas, I think you should look above you, above there, Exugiai said, jolting her out of her daydream. No, eat the Pocky, but Texas. I'm serious this time. Look behind you. She shook her head, saying, and I'm serious too, stop fooling around and eat the damn thing. Exugiai was going to tell her when Texas's phone rang again, playing one of Sora's well-known songs, Love Beats in the Heart. She glanced at her partner before whipping her phone up and barely looking at the number, asking, Demon, what is it? Sorry, Texas, I'm just getting ready to come down, but do either of you or Exugiai see what I'm seeing? Does Demon notice anything? Given that he was in a building, more precisely, his house, it shouldn't be feasible. I'm sorry. As Texas turned her senses to the interior of Demon's house, her ears perked up again. I'm on the TV right now. It's on LNN and Ursus News. There's something golden and indigo flashing up on the entirety of Lungmen and Ursus, and it can be seen from Syracuse and other nations, she said. After Demon said, there are multiple reports of this strange phenomenon of these golden and indigo colors up in our home of Lungmen. As you can see here, many people have gathered around this strange phenomenon. I'll be going to one of the individuals who saw it first. The reporter's voice could be heard over a jumbled transmission. Sir, when did you first notice this? The reporter asked. I noticed it when my wife and I went out to eat something for lunch. At first, I believed that it was my eyes playing tricks on me with lights. After all, Lungmen is known for its picturesque colors and unique blend of its vast array to give it a unique taste. I didn't pay any further attention until I was one of the first few to notice when myself and my family sat at the window seat near the entrance, when someone came barging in, telling us to look up at the skies. When we looked out the window, you couldn't believe my shock when we saw the two colors, and they were so bright I could barely see. Texas didn't need to hear any more because she looked up to observe the weather for herself. What was that? Texas. Texas, are you responding? Texas. Demon's voice kept coming over the phone, but no answer was given. He didn't ask any more questions because he was too preoccupied with what was happening right now. Both PL members gazed in utter shock, now perplexed by what they were witnessing. What was the light exactly? Lungmen was unable to supply it in any way. The live report of Demon's phone's interior was sufficient evidence that it wasn't from its own city nation or any other nation. Texas was left with little to nothing to work with, so she was only able to formulate speculations and assumptions. Was this a catastrophe, or what? However, that couldn't be. Messengers from Rhode Island or other businesses would have recognized this first and been in touch with the appropriate Texas. 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 I think you need to look again. Something came out from both those two lights, jolted her out of her speculations. She was so preoccupied with the flaming opposing energies above and what it was that she hardly noticed the two objects of light above aggressively expelling something from their bodies. They approached from opposite sides and met in the middle. And in a violent burst of light, their world burst. Underscore 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 loser, Sasuke. What's up? He asked, jolting himself out of his reverie as he looked up from the ground. Their pink-haired teammate behind him watched Sasuke approach. His friend pointed to the open field and started to go there, saying, "Well, come on," when he didn't move. "Kakashi isn't going to be here, at least for another hour or so. Let's get some training in if all he's going to do is waste our time waiting for him," he said. He grinned. Here was his opportunity to show him who he was. That he would recognize him at last. He would be recognized by Sasuke as an equal and a challenge. "All right. Get ready, Sasuke. I'm going to kick your ass." "In your dreams, idiot," he said in response to the challenge that had arisen in their eyes. Underscore 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 underscore. How about we have a chat, Naruto Uzumaki? In that case, Naruto's senses were already tuned in without sage mode, thus there was no need for inquiries or demands about why he was here. Naruto knew who the voice was even before he turned around, before the Rasengan formed in his hands, and before he ran at him. When the earth started to rumble beneath them, Naruto's hands were already in the cross sign of his shadow clones in preparation for battle, and the cerulean gaze stared at his singular blood red of the renowned Jujutsu of one of Konoha's founding clans. The orange-masked man leaped up to avoid the Uzumaki's signature jutsu as it tore the house to shreds, destroying the temporary abode he had sneaked past by two high-level jonin. Before any of them could respond further, the ground broke apart into solid, sturdy logs as pieces of it formed. Yamato's constructions then surrounded the man's torso, looping and securing him tightly. "Captain Yamato. You alright, Naruto?" Yamato asked his pupil, his eyes darting back to the orange-masked guy as he raised the palm of his hand while maintaining the wood-style bonds he had created. "I'm fine," Naruto said, nodding as his eyes darted up to the man in the mask, but his cautious worry was still there. What brought him here? He was here now, but why? "Come now, if I intended to harm Naruto, I would have done so even before you caught me, Yamato," said the rich baritone voice of the masked man above, his posture and face demonstrating the level of care he had even for his current situation. "Well, that's one thing we can agree on, you won't be getting Naruto at all." The drawling voice made it apparent that even if he were to die, he would not care. Toby nodded, the lone red eyes lowering behind his back, where he could feel the pinpricks and the deafening static chirping of the all-too-familiar lightning-style jutsu. Fast as ever and just as quick on the draw, copy ninja, the voice said. You obviously don't expect to capture Naruto easily with either myself or Yamato in close proximity, so spill it, why are you here? The Sharingan's twin mismatched pools of cobalt and blood red looked back with a deadly expression, the original and copy of the caster's Anbu training in full view. Two copies of the same man stood behind him, their hands crackling and surging with lightning, the bolts snapping at the open as they were connected together to form the far more advanced lightning cable. Punctual to the point. Very well, I was here for a reason either way, Toby said, looking into the man's eyes again before laughing again. I don't think either of you or Naruto will listen to or believe what I have to say, but I'll say it anyway, Toby said. Try us. Yamato walked cautiously up to Naruto's side and said, I wish to speak with Naruto, as Naruto tensed in fear and let his chakra flare in case Toby caught him in a genjutsu. The statement's simplicity caused the three to blink in surprise for a split second before their eyes narrowed at their adversary, indicating their mistrust of the member of the enemy group. I did say you wouldn't believe me, shrugged the orange-masked Toby. Nodded Kakashi, sorry, but it's still hard for us to buy your statement when members of your organization captured all the other hosts for the tailed beasts, and Haiden and Kakuzu attempted to capture Naruto before. Even if you are here for what you said you're here for, how do we not know you have something else planned for Naruto in mind? And trust is a rarity in this world. You haven't proven any of that to us with your actions, Yamato said before Naruto could say anything more. Fair enough, but what I do have to say involves Naruto. You're just going to have to believe that in Naruto. Toby shrugged again, his gesture non-committal. The blonde looked back, never lowering his guard in the least. It is something I believe you would be far interested in, Toby said. For the first time, Naruto raised his voice and glared at the man, asking, and what exactly would that be? The truth behind Itachi Uchiha. The words stopped altogether, and the only sound was the roaring of the icy winds, though they were far away. There was just silence as each of the witnesses processed what the previous man had told them. Then, the person nearest to the man spoke out first, asking, the truth behind Itachi Uchiha? Despite being immobile, Naruto recognized that the freezing weather was not the cause of his immobility. I do believe that is what I said. Yes, what truth are you referring to? That Itachi Uchiha slaughtered his entire clan and went rogue, leaving only Sasuke Uchiha as a survivor. That's information everyone in the Leaf knows, said Kakashi's closest friend and co-worker. Close, but not quite, let's just say it was ordered. Yamato replied, how about stop speaking in riddles and tell us what it is? You said you were here for that after all. What if I were to tell you that Itachi Uchiha had only slaughtered his clan under orders given to him by Konoha's elders and higher-ups? What if I were to tell you of the history of the Uchiha clan and the hatred that consumed them, including Sasuke? Underscore 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 underscore. He was falling, and he knew it. Gravity grabbed hold of him as he fell from a great height above the sky, where no mortal soul could touch him. However, he wasn't a god, even though he had powers that many would claim he had, but they were limited, vast, yes, but limited, just an enhancement of his existing abilities. Many would mark him as such, but he wasn't, and he would never claim to be a god or attempt to deceive others into believing he was. He could just make out a faint indigo hue of light as gravity threw him to the Earth's core, descending to the depths of the surface below. As he and the other figure fell, he hoped that, for once, the bastard would be knocked out so he could take him home, but that was probably not going to happen. Constant jerk, he looked down and realized that he had few choices for softening and reducing his landing because his chakra capacity was almost depleted and it would be wise to preserve as much of it as possible if he had any remaining. His body was already beaten, so he twisted it as much as he could in the air. Then, like a truck, the chain reaction of their attack struck him, rushing over his body before he could respond. Impact pain was as excruciating. Naruto blacked out for a moment when he slammed into the earth, his bones twisting and cracking like dough under the pressure, his mouth opening in a savage scream of pain, but he was never able to escape as his body bounced off the merciless earth and silenced him to a further temporary measure of torture. Naruto kept slamming into objects, having to keep his eyes closed because he could not handle the pain, which added to the series of attacks by both himself and his enemy. He only heard birds singing and bushes rustling. Naruto's body, despite his injuries, was still tense from years of fighting, which made him instinctively respond defensively. Naruto choked and spat forth blood, pausing to gather his thoughts before saying, "Damn it, Sasuke, you bastard. Naruto. Naruto, are you alright?" The deep voice was comforting, laced with worry for his health and body, which had earlier struggled for dominance and a desire to destroy him and everything he held dear. Naruto expressed gratitude for the tailed beast, whom he had previously referred to as his adversary, saying, just peachy, Kurama, thank the sage you're alright, you know, you're damn lucky, brat, if my chakra hadn't reached you, both yours and Sasuke's. Sasuke. I have to stop him. Naruto felt something from his lower half of his body rip, burst, and rupture, sending pain shooting out, but he did not care. At the mention of him, Naruto was re-energized, involving his best friend and rival. Then he was back on his feet, stumbling, but ignoring his body littered with multiple wounds, both internal and external. Naruto, wait. Hold on for a second. Naruto took a few steps forward, using his memory to pinpoint his location. It was likely that Sasuke had also survived the fall and was searching for him, most likely to continue their fight. No. I can't wait. I have to get to Sasuke dash. I have to get to Sasuke and stop him. I need to check if he's all right. Why was Sasuke unable to comprehend? His actions would not be accepted by any country or hamlet, and they would only fuel further war. He would not bring about peace in that manner. It didn't matter, Sasuke would defeat the jerk instead of winning as he had the last time, and if he believed he would be left alone, Naruto would ensure that he would never be. In spite of his body's pleas for help, Naruto made himself walk. He wouldn't just sit there while Sasuke was moving, and he knew that Sasuke felt the same way. If he didn't locate Sasuke, Sasuke would probably find him. Maybe it didn't matter, but he had to find Sasuke first. Naruto, I said wait. Damn it, brat. Wait. Not now, Kurama. You know I have to get to Sasuke. You idiot. Stop focusing on him for 1 second and take a good look around you. Before he froze, Naruto searched his surroundings and bit back a response. Where had he gone? The desolate terrain was all too familiar to Naruto. He could sense the field, which smelled of death, agony, and coldness that wasn't all that dissimilar from the battles fought on his native land. However, it wasn't the same image that Naruto remembered from his previous duel with the Uchiha. Kurama? Where the hell are we? He and Sasuke fought there, first to bring him home and preserve their beloved bond, and then to fight for the Hokage's ideals and peace. However, it was not the valley where the two founders of the Leaf, Hashirama and Madara, engaged in their battle that would become a legend among shinobi of his era today. I don't fucking know, brat. That's what I've been trying to tell you to look around. We aren't in the valley anymore. I'm just as lost as you are. Forget about it. I need to focus on finding Sasuke. Naruto shook his head, pushing it down as he looked around for a minute longer, terror starting to seep into his gut at the unfamiliarity of his location. He was a shinobi, and shinobi were taught to conceal their fear. Kurama yelled at his guest, "Focus on that bastard. You idiot, what about where we are first?" Neither of us has any clue where the fuck we are, frowned. And neither does Sasuke. I don't know how the hell either of us got here, but as far as either of us know, we're all in the same predicament. I have to get him. Kurama sneered and snorted about stupid and unintelligent hosts, but Naruto was ready. Before starting to go, he attached his weapon holsters to his body and adjusted them. Naruto, who was taught to distrust and anticipate everything, found the field to be suspicious even though it was empty. The mist layer made him think of Team 7's initial operation against Zabuza and Haku, but Kurama's voice inside of him fixed that. "Brat, don't worry, I'm scanning out for any chakra signatures myself, you're all clear so far." Naruto was thankful. Thanks Kurama, I don't think I have enough chakra for Sage Mode anyway, because it was the only way he could accurately detect chakra signatures. Although he had developed and honed his skills as a sensor-type ninja, he still detected signatures much more accurately in Sage Mode, which required some chakra, and Naruto had used up most of it in the war against Obito, Madara, Kagaya, and Sasuke. Naruto's eyes suddenly widened and he started coughing violently. After the struggle, Kurama had to watch his container suffer from the effects of his wounds, so he shouted up again, "Naruto. You alright?" I am fine. Just locate Sasuke." Naruto said, hacking out more globules of blood and spit. "I could dash, no." Naruto angrily objected, saying, "Don't heal me. It's a waste of your own chakra. Just locate Sasuke now." At this moment, in a world that neither he nor Kurama recognized, he needed Kurama more than anything. If Kurama used up all of his remaining chakra healing him, he would have to sleep in order to recover. The blonde pushed himself to stand once again, his body aching with tremors. He gasped sharply with each step, as though he were a man running on air, making his way slowly to where his competitor was thought to be. Naruto slipped over a hill and stumbled over a protruding rock. His head met the ground with a crack, and pain shot up from the base of his skull. "Naruto!" Cursing, Naruto raised his trembling, bloodied arms into the classic cross sign of the Shadow Clone Jutsu and said, "I'm fine, Kurama." Ironically, he hoped that Sasuke would be moving so he could find him. In a swirl of smoke, 3 clones appeared, but Naruto was unable to sustain himself and fell forward, only to be caught by 2 of them. "All right, boss," one of his clones taunted softly. Naruto recalled being thrown overboard on the journey to Cloud, saying, "You guys should go on ahead and find Sasuke without me," in reference to Boss. "Heh. You sure?" The clones looked at each other. The clones vanished in a flash after Naruto waved them away, saying, "Just go. Hurry." He chuckled painfully and leaned back to collect his breath. "Now they're concerned about me," he said. "Brat, if you would just let me, I can take over for your body. We can locate him more quickly that way as well." It was astonishing that he was still standing at all, given his current condition, which undoubtedly included fractured ribs, torn muscles and ligaments, and ruptured organs. "I can't. That asshole is likely up and moving as well. If he isn't, then that's fucking swell. We don't have to deal with his bullshit in the meantime."